Alan's going.
Say it again?
Alan's going to get Norm.
Thank you. We're not starting yet, right?
Ron Brenda.
1 minute.
I think you should be vice chair.
Me?
Mm-hmm. I do. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I know. I'm still learning.
Okay, Brenda.
Good evening. I'd like to open the meeting of June 3rd, the time being 6 p.m. This meeting this evening is I guess we could call it a special meeting. 1 second.
Bless you.
Sorry about that. We will be interviewing 3 candidates this evening for the interim superintendent position. Tonight, we are going to start off with our own, Mr. Normie Vaughn. Thank you for coming in. If you would like, you could start with an opening statement for us.
Certainly. I am thrilled to be sitting here before you with this opportunity to become the instructional leader of the Oxford Public Schools. My 9 years here, I've learned that this is a great community, a wonderful town full of great kids, great parents, some really dedicated teachers and administrators, and a terrific place to work. I tell anybody who asks me that this is one of the most favorite places I've been. The community that I think beyond compare. And being able to lead the education of this district, continuous moving forward, to get the Oxford Public Schools the recognition that it deserves, and to move forward to get the success that we're capable of is an exciting opportunity for me and a challenge that I look forward to. I've looked for superintendent positions elsewhere, but not to the point where I've plastered my paper all over the state. I've been particular about where I've chosen, looking for communities that feel like home. And Oxford feels like home. And I will treat it as my home if I am here. My background, I think, has prepared me very well for this position. My training as a teacher, my work as an administrator, my education at Harvard, my current work with the National Institute of School Leadership, really focusing me and then through me, able to focus those around me on effective instruction, effective management, what works in schools, how schools like ours have been successful, and what we can do to take that success and make it our own.
Very good. Thank you very much. We have an hour, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off each with one question, and if we have time, we do have a second question that we will be asking. We pulled out of the palm of my hand the names, and I am happy to go first. Last night at our school committee meeting, we talked a lot about the data that is collected. And during that discussion, we heard from our special ed, 2 elementary principals, and our curriculum coordinator. We know that we gather data. All districts do it. Obviously, we have gaps in the data that we are gathering. And in these gaps, in my opinion, I think that is what has brought us down to a level 3 in some cases. How would you fill the gaps?
As I mentioned last night, the data that we've been collecting is more big picture than not. So we've been able to identify areas of curriculum in general where we need to improve as a district, areas of curriculum in general where we need more additional supports, additional materials. But what we haven't been able to use that data to do is get down to the student level. Okay? Now, we have possibilities to do that with our MAP data in a somewhat timely fashion. Because again, as I said last night, our MAP tests come once every 3 months. So I find out that John is having difficulty with X in algebra 2 months after we taught X, as opposed to 5 minutes after we taught X. So one of the things that we need to do is support our teachers in developing the use of the data that they've got right in front of them. Those worksheets that they do every day, student homework, the classroom tests, the common assessments, are all points of data at the bottom of that data triangle that, in my opinion, are the most important. Because that tells me, when I ask that ticket out question, that these children didn't understand what I wanted them to from this instruction. And tomorrow, I need to revisit that with them in a different way to help them learn it. Or I can group my kids based on that instruction, knowing that these 4 children understood it, these 5 children didn't, and the mistake they made tells me they need more work on place value, or they need more work on procedure. These children, the mistake that they made tell me they need to work on another particular skill, and I can group them in my classroom to address that skill directly, so that by the end of that lesson, they understand what I want them to understand, and we can move forward. Moving that focus from teaching to learning. So at the end of the day, it's not, did I teach it, but did the students learn it? And if they didn't, figuring out why, and going back and reteaching and helping them learn it, and understanding that that's not a reflection on me. That's the process. That's what we need to do, is meet the kids where they are and help them learn and help them to move forward. So getting more use of that data on the classroom level, because that data at the top of the triangle, the summative data, MCAS, end of unit tests, end of course tests, we get information, but it's too late. It helps us tweak the course for the next group of kids, but not for that group of kids that's sitting in front of me right now. The MAP data does the same thing, but in a shorter time frame. So we're still missing that direct opportunity. The best time to catch a mistake is when it happens, not 3 months after it happens, to go back and try and fix it.
Thank you. Mr. Coonan?
Thank you, Ms. Ennis. Good evening, Mr. Yvonne.
Good evening.
The question here has multiple parts. The opening to the question is, give us some examples of how you have worked with principals and other district administrators to improve their performance in the following cases: being instructional leaders, improvement of administrative performance, knowing how to interview and hire good teachers, working with parents, and working with faculty and colleagues in the school district. Did you get all the parts? I can repeat it if you like.
I got it.
Very good.
Whether I can read it 5 minutes from now.
At any time, feel free to ask clarifiers.
Absolutely. As you're aware, in my roles here in Oxford and in my roles elsewhere, they've been at the building level and most recently at the central office level. So much of this work has been collegial as opposed to supervisory at this point, but yes, we've worked together on many occasions. I think a good example is the transition of Mrs. Parmalee into the principal's position at the A.M. Chafee School, providing her with the background information about the school, about the parents, to help her be able to step in and know what the traditions are, so she's not stepping on traditions as she moves forward and upsetting people in that process, letting her know what the policies and procedures are so that those are followed and she's not falling behind in maintaining effective reports, effective management of the building. I've worked with our administrators on the evaluation process and making sure that we're working to get us all on the same page, knowing which forms go for which section of the evaluation, the due dates of those evaluations, and providing support and understanding that both to the faculty and staff as well as the administrators. The work that I'm doing in NISL will help me support our administrators as instructional leaders, helping them understand what effective practice is in mathematics, in science, in reading, and how to project that information to the faculty and staff so that they can then translate it into their classroom practice, supporting that on a daily basis. by example, establishing those good relationships with parents and faculty and staff. We can disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable when we disagree. So that being open and listening, being present. Someone had made a comment to me this morning. You know, we missed you at the front door at the concert. You know, it was great that you were out there saying hello to everybody and welcoming them in. You know, my conversation tomorrow will be with someone and letting her know that they missed that, so that may be something she wants to think about as a means of maintaining that sense of community. Doors are always open for administrators, faculty, parents, and listening is an important part of what I do. So that, as I said, while we may not disagree, may not agree, when we come to the end of things, it will be clear that you were heard and you were understood, and I will do my best to make sure that our position is understood as well. Having that understanding that I don't have to be the one who has the right answer, and sharing the credit for those right answers. I can think of an example. We were before you at one meeting. That may have been an executive session, but I think the minutes have been released long since now.
Go right ahead.
Where we were talking about some policies and procedures that happened in the classroom, and one of the administrators had said, "We're doing this with sign-in sheets," and I knew that was Mr. Wells's idea, and that's where it came from. And it wasn't necessarily important to stand up and say, "Oh, that was Kevin's idea." But a pat on the shoulder let Kevin know, all right, good, somebody recognized where it came from. It's all right that we're sharing it, and you know, because we're all part of the same team, and we need to be working together. Respecting teachers as professionals, again, by example, expecting them to act as professionals, providing them the support that they need to do so. When we lead folks by the hand, they tend to expect to be led by the hand, and then when they're left alone, they don't know what to do, or where to go, or how to make things work. If they're a piece of that process and we're working together, and we get teachers working together, we get a better professional community, we get a better output for our children. I'm not sure I touched on all of them as we were going through.
Okay.
The professional leader.
Can I just ask a clarifier?
Please.
Yes,
question?
please.
Sure. I'll just add to the fact now that you answered this one, and if you were hired superintendent, how would you address these areas? So now, when you built the experience, so if you were hired, how would you address those bullets?
One is leading by example, so that if we expect the teachers or administrators to do X, I'm going to be doing it too. I'm going to be out there out front, one of the first ones doing it. So when we tell our teachers, we expect to see keys to literacy in your classroom. We expect to see you using top-down webs and two-column notes. When I make my presentations to faculty and staff, working with administrators, I'll be using top-down notes and top-down webs and two-column notes to stress that not only it's important for you to do, it's important for us all to do. We'll be having the administrative council do that same thing. My intention would be to continue twice monthly administrative council meetings, but having one of them be a business meeting, and the second be more of a professional learning community meeting. So the business meeting, we've got an agenda, we work on the school business, the management issues that we need to deal with during that meeting, and the next meeting, we're working together on our own professional development. We expect our teachers to do so. We should do the same for ourselves, so that we're doing an article study. We're sharing a problem of practice and trying to figure out a solution that's helpful. Just because Mrs. Parmalee has kindergarten, first and second graders doesn't mean that she doesn't have ideas that might be helpful to Mr. Wells at the high school. We may be observing a video of someone teaching and using the observation tool, watching that video and then comparing our notes to make sure that we're all on the same page. So that if the five of us go in and see the same lesson, we're going to mark them similarly, getting that inter-rater reliability. So it's not easier to be evaluated in one person's building than the next, or having Mr. Yvonne come in and do it than Mr. Baroni. Providing opportunity for teachers to do the same. The schedule that we have in place for the elementary schools, providing that common preparation time, is a beginning in making that happen. Being present in the community, to parents, to community members, is an important piece of this job. I'll be in the schools, in the classrooms. I know enough that I can take my iPad with me and do whatever I would do in my office in any building in this district. So I don't have to be tied to my office to get work done. I can get my phone calls forwarded to my cell phone. I don't have to be out of touch to be able to do that. And then in the classroom, I can hear directly from the teachers. How's it going? What are your issues? What are your problems? What's working well? And be able to bring that perspective back when we meet to address issues. It makes them feel like they're part of the bigger team, that they're being heard by everybody, and that their input matters. It also gets me in touch with students and get a sense for what they have. And then, in additionally, when I talk to parents then they call with a question about Oxford High School or Oxford Middle School, I'm not guessing or blowing smoke. I've been there. I've been in the classrooms. I can speak more knowledgeably about what's happening and answer their questions as best as we can. Organizing professional development ahead of time and appropriately and focused, so that we're not splattering things here and there. We know this is the vision we have for our district. Here's where we need to go. Here's the professional development we need to do in order to get there. So that it's not the week before a half a day we're saying, okay, what are we going to do 2 weeks? That's done months in advance. That's planned. We know what's going to happen, and the teachers know what's going to happen, and there are no surprises and no guessing. And we're not leaving the art, music, health, and phys ed to kind of fit in somewhere, because it's hard to get professional development for those specialists. We plan for that ahead of time. We make sure we have something that's appropriate for them, as we do for the science teachers and the math teachers and the social studies teachers, as well as our instructional aides, our secretaries, and I said the administrative council, as well. Being present in the community beyond in the classroom, the 300th anniversary, being there at the high school booth or at one of the school-related areas, so that people see us as part of the community and not something separate from the community. Sharing our information as much as possible with the community, both in this forum, with the Finance Committee, at Town Council meetings, but outside of that as well. As we move forward over these next few months, we'll be putting together a capital improvement plan as part of the debt exclusion that we're going to be working on. Okay, probably maybe a 5-year plan. We need to put that together. We need to let people know about that plan, and this is one good forum to do so, but we need to take that show on the road and get to the Elder Center, get to the community room at Orchard Hill, get to Ecumenical Council meeting, get to local business association meeting, so that we can present that information and be heard, and have people understand, and give people the opportunity to provide their input as well. In addition, it makes sense to me not only to have this 5-year capital improvement plan, but to have a district improvement plan that spans over several years, so that instead of budgeting and planning from one year to the next and having things seem like a surprise to the community, well, what do you mean we're adding this teacher, or why are we doing? It's no surprise. We talked about it 3 years ago. In 2017, we want to add this program to the high school for this reason and these positions, so that they know we've got to focus. They know we're planning to move ahead, and the plan is out there ahead of us, and we can adjust it obviously as we need, and as budgets allow. But that we work together to make that happen, and we really get people to see that the Oxford Public Schools are an integral part of this community, and not town, school, two separate businesses, Walmart and Target. No, we're the same, and we need to be working together as such.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Spitz?
Thank you, Mrs. Ennis. Mine kind of ties back into Mrs. Ennis's first question. What is the role and value of assessment instruments in a school system today? We talked a lot last night about data collection, and kind of give me a synopsis of what you think we're doing presently, and what value they hold for us and our students.
In education today, assessment is a key portion of what we need to do, both in the area of accountability and, I think more importantly, in the focus on improving student learning. When we look at assessment, I see nothing to draw on, a triangle. And the tip of that triangle is the stuff that happens annually, the high-stakes assessments, MCAS, PARC, end-of-year tests, those type of things. They provide that big picture view. When we analyze that, we can see where the gaps are in our curriculum. We can see where a grade level may be missing a given topic or given concept. We can see how our district, our grade levels are performing as a whole. In the middle are benchmark assessments that happen every 3 months or so. As I said, MAP, DIBELS, unit tests, common assessments. They provide us a little bit more detailed information at the classroom level. So we know how we're doing with this particular group of kids, with this particular unit, or this particular topic, and it helps us improve that unit for the next time we move along. So that bigger base of that triangle is the formative assessments, the classroom-based assessments. That's the nitty-gritty, day-to-day, really important stuff that our teachers can look at and say, did my children get it? And if they didn't, what do I need to do to go back and reteach and help them understand and get it? Now, if we catch that, then we've got a great chance of being a success. If I don't understand the division of fractions and you catch it 5 minutes after you taught it, I got a good chance of being corrected. Or if I have a major misconception about a science concept, if I don't find out till 3 months later that that the student has that concept, it's a lot harder to dislodge than it is 5 minutes later and say, oh, we've got to catch that tomorrow, because that's not right, and that's not going to help them when we get further down the road. So we've got that reporting aspect. We're reporting out to the state, showing our progress. The other value of this assessment data is it allows us to demonstrate our accountability to the community. Yeah. We purchased a new math program. I think we should be able to say here in this forum and in other forums to the community, as a result of buying this new math program, our MAP scores have gone up in math in the grade levels where we implemented the program. Now, the purchase worked, the implementation of the new program is working. Or, if it happens to be the other way around, we purchased a new program and our scores have gone down, but we've analyzed it and we think this is why, and we've got a plan to address that and have our scores continue to improve. We were given as a district the money to add the robust wireless system to the district and to purchase one-to-one devices for all of our children. Great, but if we leave it sit there and don't advertise, yes, now we have 400 individual devices in the district, all on at the same time. Students are being able to do research on the spot. The community doesn't know the positive effect of the expense that's being made, and they don't then maybe see the value of it. But if we're able to be accountable for that decision, for that expense, and showing the improvement that we're making, or the lack of improvement or the minimal improvement, and a plan to continue to get better, we've got a better chance of keeping them on our side.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rassicot?
Thank you, Mrs. Ennis. Hi, Mr. Yvonne.
Hi, Dr. Rassicot.
I guess this question has to do with your interaction with the community, and as everybody's aware, we've kind of taken some hits recently, and it seems like there's going to need to be some healing involved because of our need to possibly go forward to the town to ask for debt exclusion or override. Those decisions haven't been made. So I guess it's what has been your practice in the past, and what things do you think we need to do to kind of move forward in a positive direction with the town of Oxford itself, the community, and the parents, of course, and the students, but everybody, in the town?
A piece of that, I think, harkens back to some of the other answers that I've given. The superintendent is the face of the district, and it doesn't hurt to be a friendly face, and to be a visible face, so that people know that, someone walking in the building, who's that person in the tie? Well, that's Mr. Yvonne, he's our superintendent. When you walk into the grocery store, it's not just the kids who are saying, hey, Mr. Yvonne, it's the other members of the community who recognize, okay, this person is a piece of our community and works to help us. That connection is important with the town side, keeping that information flow back and forth. so that if we've got a 5-year growth plan in place for the district, there's no surprise when we ask for something, or what direction we're trying to take in improving our district. If we have that 5-year capital improvement plan in place, there's no surprise in what's happening. But that important piece of it is getting that information out there, and not just, as I said, in these public forums, but going out to where people are and presenting that information. We can do everything we want here, and it'd be nice if we had the turnouts that we'd have for some of the school committee forums that we had this school year. That doesn't always happen. So if we go where the people are, we're more likely to see them, and we're more likely to see them on their own turf. They're more likely to be comfortable in providing their input and their information, and have that be a two-way conversation. I think it's important to hear from the businesses in town. What do you expect from an Oxford High School graduate? You know, many of whom you employ while they're in school. Well, you know, we want to be able to make change. We want to be able to, okay, you know, we need to make sure that our kids can do that so that they can support you when we come out. You know, what skills do you think your student, high school graduate is going to need to be successful in your business? We need to make sure we're providing those skills to help support our own community and help our children be successful when they're out in the community. Talking to parents and finding out what they expect from our schools. I was thinking of this, you know, this afternoon, and being able to explain to them why school needs to be different. Because none of us would go in with a torn rotator cuff to our doctor and expect them to do the surgery that they did 20 years ago. We want the arthroscopic surgery and the Teflon rope and the short recovery time, not the big cuts and the large gaps and the long recovery time. But people tend to want school to be like it was when they were in school. And we need to talk with folks and explain to them why that's not the case. 40, 50 years ago, that made sense, because the world in which my parents went to school was similar to the world in which I went to school and the world in which I graduated from. But now we can't guarantee that the world in which a child starts kindergarten is going to be close to the same as the world in which they'll be when they graduate from high school. So those changes are happening faster and faster, and the way we educate children and what we need to do in school needs to change. I mean, there were a time when you could memorize everything you needed to know in a particular subject. Knowledge is expanding at an exponential rate. You can't. We've got to start teaching kids how to be able to find knowledge and work with knowledge and have those basic skills, those basic bits of knowledge in their heads, that they're not scrambling, you know, what's 2 + 2, give me a calculator, but that they know where to find it and how to find it when they need it. So sharing that with parents, getting that input from parents and putting that in place, talking with our teachers, the same thing, getting input from them about what do we need to do to help make this a better school district, to help improve, and working together to do the best for our students. Having that sense of community and belonging, keeping that door open always willing to talk, always willing to listen, always being respectful, celebrating is an important piece of this. Celebrating our successes, privately within the district, but publicly. You know, making those connections, which are sometimes hard, with the local press and the local newspaper. It wouldn't hurt for us to have someone in each building whose responsibility, whether it's paid or volunteer, is to something cool happens at the school. Take a picture, write a paragraph, send it off. If they print it in the paper, great. If they don't, we tried. And get them in. Increasing our social media presence, I think, will be helpful. I've been experimenting with that this year as a way of reaching out to parents and getting those positive messages that we want to get out. If we have a Facebook page or a Twitter account, we can post, last night, boys baseball team wins, congratulations, off to finals. We can post, we've got 20-some-odd students who received the Abigail Adams Scholarship. Congratulations. In a media that's much more accessible to folks. Our website is fairly easy to get to, but as technology is evolving, people are finding that, it's too much work to make a couple of clicks. It's a lot easier to have it to come right to my phone or right to my tablet, and I can see, whether it's through Twitter or Facebook, oh, okay, this is what's going on, that's cool. It also allows another opportunity for that two-way communication, for us to celebrate something and for someone else underneath to begin celebrating as well in this virtual community, or for us to pose a question and to get answers and recommendations from people through that virtual community. I think that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. My next question is going to be regarding the school committee. What kind of a relationship, as a new superintendent, do you think you should build with the school committee? And let's say you have a member or two or three that are opposed to some of the up-and-coming mandates, we'll call them, for Park and the Common Core, and they don't necessarily agree with those standards that are being set up. How would you, first of all, begin your relationship with the school committee, and how would you start that conversation in regard to Park and Common Core?
I think the beginning of any relationship is communication. So it's important for us to have an open means of communication, a very clear and consistent and frequent communication with the chair and regular communication with the entire committee. My thought over the past week has been a bi-weekly email to the committee that says, here's what I've done this week. I'm in my office, I don't see you guys every day. This is what we've worked on. This is where we're moving. These are some of the meetings I've had. These are some of the issues we've dealt with. So you got a sense of what's happening at central office over time. Regular updates at school committee meetings on those other 2 weeks. As far as disagreements, we can disagree with Park, and we can disagree with the Common Core, and we can disagree with MCAS. Push comes to shove, we have to do it because it's mandated by the state. But having conversations about why we disagree, and having those conversations openly. And we can say, yeah, you know what, I don't necessarily agree with the Common Core. We have to do it. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to be successful about it. And then figuring out who do we need to talk to try and get a change. Whose office do we need to call? To whom do we need to write letters to say we're not happy with this, and how can we possibly get things changed? Those conversations are important to have. Again, with school committee, with the community. It's important to explain to the community why Park, and what does Park mean for instruction? What does the Common Core mean for instruction? How is that going to change? Talking back to the issues we were talking about, things changing in schools. The same concepts aren't being taught in kindergarten under the Common Core as they were under the previous frameworks, as they were under the frameworks previous to that. So when the kindergarten teacher says, I love patterning, we've been working on patterning forever, it's not one of the Common Core anymore. We've got to let it go. We've got to figure it out. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but it means it's not a main focus of what we're doing in kindergarten. But that communication is going to be very important both ways, so that, if there's a concern that comes my way, sharing that. If there's a concern that comes your way, sharing that, and making sure that we're all aware of that flow of communication. And I've heard you say this before. Parent contacts you, same question I have. Did you talk to the teacher? Okay. Did you talk to the principal? Okay. Now, did you talk to the superintendent? And making sure that chain of communication is followed. So it's a lot easier to solve the problem if it's at a classroom level between the parent and the teacher than it is moving up and having a go-between. Because then the conversation is not direct. It's, I'm hearing it and I'm explaining to you, then I'm hearing what you say and I'm explaining it to somebody else. It works best when we can talk directly to one another.
Very good, thank you very much. Mr. Coonan?
Thank you, Mrs. Ennis. Mr. Yvonne, if you're chosen tonight as superintendent, in 6 months, how would you define your success as a superintendent of the Roxbury Public Schools?
What I would hope to see at the end of the 6 months is a revised vision for the district, taking a look at our current vision and measuring, looking at it against the benchmarks of, is it measurable? Is it attainable? Are there ways that we can measure that we're moving forward and meeting this vision? Is it understandable? Can everybody who reads it know what's happening? And does everybody know about it? So I would, at the end of that 6 months, we'd have a vision that everyone knows about, that everyone supports, and that is measurable, and that can be used as that guidepost for all of the decisions that we're making. So when it comes down to make decisions that are either budgetary or programmatic, Does it help us further our vision? Yes. Great, we can get behind it, jump up and down and move. Does it help us further our vision? No. Well, then maybe we need to think about whether or not we want to do that, because it's not moving us forward into creating the school district that we want to create down the road. I would measure it by an increase in staff and faculty morale, a greater sense of community within the Oxford Public Schools, people understanding that they are supported, that they are listened to, and that they are important, that their contributions are valued, and that they have the support and what they need to continue to improve themselves and make even greater contributions. Because we've got a great mentality in schools, that doesn't always happen. So creating those opportunities, teachers having opportunities to observe and visit one another, learn from one another, get together and meet. They have input into the decisions that affect what happens in their classrooms every day. We've got a sense that we're all on the same page, administratively and building-wise, so that all of us as administrators look at the evaluation tool and the evaluation process and have the same understanding of what collection of evidence means, what a walkthrough is supposed to be like, what the timelines are, and that we all follow those together. We're all, again, on the same page. When we developed the policy regarding Chapter 222, that we're all on the same page and have that same understanding, and that it doesn't mean something different unless we intend it to from one building to the next. There's, I guess that greater sense of community, of we're all in this boat together. We're all responsible for all of the kids. That's a piece of the rubric for the teachers, fostering that sense of responsibility for all students, not just the ones that are in front of me. We need to foster that as well district-wide, so that as a principal, I'm not just responsible for the kids who are in my building, I'm responsible for all of the kids in the district, and getting that sense that, the kindergarten teacher understands, I'm not just teaching the kindergarten curriculum, I'm preparing my students for college and career. I'm a big, important piece of that. The next year, well, this would be a little late, but around this time, all of the teachers in the district would be getting an invitation to graduation, because they're a piece of that success for those students who are crossing the stage that day. And they need to, even if they don't show up, they need to see that recognize it being an important part of that. It wasn't just the 9 through 12 teachers that got those kids to their diploma. It involved all of us working together, to make a difference. I think if we look at the end of 6 months, the district should have a sharper sense of focus. How do I describe it? We're kind of splashing in the water now. By the end of 6 months, I would hope we've picked a couple of strokes and stuck with it and start moving. So rather than trying and doing everything, we're going to pick what we think is going to work for us, do it well, and move. And then once we've got those under our belt, then grab something else, do that well, and move.
Okay. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Mr. Spitz.
Thank you again.
You're welcome.
You touched on this a little bit in your last question, but how would you build rapport with your administrators, with the teaching staff, and with the support staff? Because I think this is a real key to success. So I'd like to hear how you do that.
Excuse me.
I guess first by being myself. And second, making sure that I'm present in the buildings, that I'm there to meet with teachers, to see them in their classrooms working. When I go into a building, not just to visit the administrator and spend time in the office, but to get into classrooms, be a clear part of the school community. If I go into a classroom, it's not just going to be to watch. I'm a teacher. I'm always going to be a teacher. I'm going to pitch in if it's appropriate, and help the classroom teacher with whatever's happening in the classroom. Get down with the children and ask them, not what are you doing, but what are you learning? Because there's a difference between those two questions. Because if they're just doing, okay, we're filling out this worksheet, we're doing this, but if they're able to tell me we're learning about, the effect of the piston on a column of air. All right, I got a sense you know what the purpose of this lesson is. Again, they touched on it earlier, celebrating successes with our teachers, recognizing that we've got some great people here working with us who do some great things. In publicizing that, whether it's through digital media or a newsletter within the district or some way. So when I go through the classroom and I see a teacher do something great, is it all right if I share that with other people? And putting that out in an email. This great thing happened in the classroom. Please feel free to talk to this person about what they did and how you might be able to do that in your own classroom. And I think having the culture where that is possible without people feeling like, oh, yeah, you're in that room again, and Bill got accolades, brown-nosed Bill, no. Bill got accolades because he's doing something well, and I can learn from it. We can support one another. Two of the most powerful words I have in my vocabulary are thank you. Just thanking people for doing their job and recognizing that they're doing it well. I've done it often. Bus duty. Thanks for doing bus duty today. Wow, what do you mean thanks? I got to do it. Yeah, but you didn't have to catch Jimmy. It was in the wrong bus line. It saved us a big hassle. You saw it, you caught it, you caught him in the right bus line, and we moved on. You didn't have to wipe so-and-so's tears because she dropped her the egg that she created in class. She did a nice job of calming her down and making her feel better before she went home. Thank you. It makes a difference. Recognizing that people come in sick and saying, I appreciate that you're here today. If you need anything can make you feel better, let me know. We'll do what we can. But I appreciate that you're here. Makes them want to come back in again the next day. Providing those opportunities and having that environment that is supportive is going to help build that sense of community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rassicot?
Thank you. Just real quick, I guess. Describe your leadership style.
Well, first, it's leading by example. I see, and leadership through service, I guess is the best way to describe it. I see this as an avocation. It's my job to help everyone else in the district do their job. So what can I do to support you as a principal? What can I do to support you as a teacher? What can I do to support you as an associate, a secretary, a custodian, to help you do your job better? And then take all the crap that's there and move it out of the way so that they can do their job well. You'll see me leading from 3 places. Out front, come on, let's go. As I said earlier, by example, being one of the first to do whatever it is I'm asking everybody else to do and continuing to do it, urging folks to come on and move beyond and moving the obstacles out of the way as we move forward. I guess it's an awful metaphor, but like the general in front of the battle, pushing open the gates and letting everybody be able to pass through. You'll see me leading from the middle. Here we are, we're all in this together. What can we do to make this work, getting input and support from everyone else? And you'll see me leading from behind, cheering on, encouraging, egging, yeah, let's go, move, here's what we need to do. Making expectations clear so that people know what they're expected to do and providing the supports that they need to meet those expectations. Providing the level of supervision that's appropriate for each individual. We've got different people across the district who need different levels of supervision, but even the best person needs some level of supervision in order to become better and to continue to meet those expectations and raise those expectations. And those who need more supervision deserve it. We hired people for a reason, and if they're not meeting our expectations, let's provide them ample opportunity and support to meet those expectations before we do anything else. So providing that appropriate supervision, whether it's for administrators, faculty, custodians, or what have you. I tend to be one who can't necessarily quote everything I've read, but have a good synthesis of what I read. When I pick something up, it tends to become a part of what's already in place. And not separate. So melding those ideas together, how can they work for us, how can they work in Oxford, and sharing that with everybody. You'll see me acting as a teacher. As I said, for 30 years, that's what I've been, and I'm not going to quit. So the teaching administration, some of the things that I'm learning at Nissel, some of the things that I've read about teaching faculty and staff, I would love to continue to present at professional development days. It reminds folks that wasn't that long ago I was in the classroom, and I still understand what's going on and can help you improve what you're doing as well.
Thank you very much. We do have a few minutes, and I'm going to allow you to make a closing statement. We have about 10 minutes, so brief, but please feel free to add anything that you would like to.
Thank you. Well, again, as I said when I started, Oxford is a wonderful town. I love working in this this community and would look forward to the opportunity to become the educational leader of this district. And I think I can promise you that you'd have both a efficient manager and a good educational leader in this position. Someone with a focus on student improvement and improving teaching and learning while maintaining the efficient operations of the district. I think that I have an advantage that'll last me for a little bit in having been here for 9 years. For the next 8 years or so, I will know every student in Oxford High School. I will have known almost every family and have worked with almost every family in the district. I come into this position with relationships already established with the community, with parents, with faculty and staff. I think I have built up a level of trust over the 9 years that it would take someone new a long time to build. But I also understand that 2 minutes, that trust can be gone. So to me, that's a sacred trust, and work hard to maintain that. I will be honest, open, and myself the entire way through. I promise you I will continue to sing. I will continue to dance. I will continue to laugh, and I will encourage anyone to join me.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Yvonne.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norm. Thank you. No,
I'm not going back in that other room, am I?
Are we calling him?
yeah, we're going
I
to
don't
go
know,
get the next
what
one.
are your plans for Mr. Yvonne? Can he stay
You
here?
can,
He's welcome
yeah,
to
you
stay.
can stay, sure, absolutely, and you can have a cookie.
I won't take a cookie now.
We're just going to get the next candidate.
All right. Maybe after this one, I'll go real quick. Thank you, sorry.
We're ready. Yes, please. Candidate, and will just be a couple of minutes. Thank you, everyone at home, for allowing us that few minutes. The gentleman that we have for our second candidate is Dr. Mark Garceau, and he comes to us from Fall River. What we're going to do tonight, Dr. Garceau, is each of us have 2 questions to ask, and I've been the fortunate one to be able to ask the first question.
Okay.
So, last night during our school committee meeting, we had a lot of conversation about data collection. And it seems like we collect a lot of information, but I don't know if we're using it properly. How would you propose to fill in the gaps for the data collection? Because we believe there are gaps.
Sure.
You know, so how would you propose that? And you know what, I forgot. This is Mr. Coonan, I am so sorry, I didn't introduce
We
him.
met
Nice to see
before,
you.
yes.
My colleagues.
Again, Dr. Garza.
Mr. Rassicot and Mr. Spitz.
Gentlemen,
Sorry about that.
quite all right. Well, data can be instrumental for a lot of reasons. It can be really important to strategic planning, which I think is an identified need for the district. It can inform instructional decision-making and adjustments to practice at the teacher level. It has great implications for providing interventions and supports for kids in need at the student level. Where in Massachusetts, we use MCAS, obviously. I know the district also uses the Measures of Academic Progress, the NWA product, DIBELS, and others. And there are district-developed assessments that also provide additional data points. Unless there are ways and systems put in place where that data is then shared back with building leaders and teachers in ways that inform those things that I just talked about, strategic planning, instructional decision-making, supports for students, there absolutely are gaps. And so in looking through, I, as a matter of fact, read closely the district review report from last spring when Desi was out here. And they identified, frankly, that in Oxford, there was not the making use of data that there could be. For whatever reasons, principals and teachers spoke about the fact that while MCAS results would come back and they would be held accountable for those, they weren't necessarily shared in ways that the teachers found informative or helpful. Principals noted that data analysis has not been a priority. And there are plenty of priorities in a district this size. There are a lot of things that were going on that are very good and very positive, but the opportunities that close data analysis, regular cycles of reviewing not just student achievement data, but growth data, attendance data, suspension rates, IEP referrals, numbers of kids that are coming in with IEPs and then meeting the goals of those IEPs, all of those data points to being brought together in a cohesive way that informs instructional decision-making and planning is something that we in Fall River and that I also did in Rhode Island to a large extent is just critical to school improvement efforts. Unless we have data to support what we assume is going on, without data, frankly, it's just opinions. The numbers are there that tell us where our kids are struggling, where they're falling down, the number of our high-needs kids who are meeting with proficiency or scoring advanced on MCAS. Those kinds of things have to be examined. Root causes have to be identified. Problem-solving and planning around addressing those issues has to take place, and that only happens with systems of data that make it transparent, make it actionable, make it informative. Otherwise, it's a bunch of numbers, and that can happen, or it's testing and testing and testing for the sake of testing and not really making use of the information that it yields. Mm-hmm. So I would want to absolutely put in place and quickly a comprehensive data system that brings together all those different data points. MCAS, SPED numbers, attendance numbers, all of those.
Would you consider this to be a priority?
Absolutely. I don't think there's you will not find a rapidly improving district in the state, or I think in the country, that isn't data-driven. I think in terms of turning around a district or igniting a fire for improvement, it's the single most important thing that one can do when those systems aren't in place currently.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Mr. Coonan?
Thank you. Dr. Garr, so my next question has a series of parts to the question. Basically, I'm going to ask you to give us some examples of how you have worked with principals and other district administrators to improve their performance in the following areas. Being instructional leaders, improvement of administrative performance, knowing how to interview and hire good teachers, working with parents, and working with faculty and colleagues in the school district.
If you wouldn't mind, sir, the second one was improving what?
The second one would be improvement of administrative performance. You can repeat them all if you'd like, Doctor.
If you wouldn't mind, instructional leadership, improving administrative performance.
Knowing how to interview and hire
Yes,
good
sir.
teachers,
Yep.
working with parents, working with faculty and colleagues in the school district.
So that is the bulk of the work that I've been doing for a number of years. When I was a building level principal, one of the things that I was most committed to was continually growing the capacity of my teachers, building in them the instructional capacity, the facility with data interpretation. I became myself expert in how to interpret achievement and growth data, then taught my staff how to do it so that we could work together and plan and work collaboratively. Those were the kinds of initiatives that led the school that I was principal of from being a Title I designated school, a choice school, the lowest designation in Rhode Island at the time, to quickly turning around to becoming a Regents Commended School and a national recognized Title I school. As an administrator, I'm still a teacher, and so as we move out of the classrooms and we move into administration, we become teachers of teachers. I've taken a lot of that same approach to the work that I've done with principals for the last few years. Prior to joining the Rhode Island Department of Education, I was the Director of Administration and Instruction in Woonsocket, and a large part of my job then, and a large part of my job now, is to serve as a coach for principals. I'm a school review partner in Fall River where I'm assigned to principals, and I work with principals by visiting the buildings, by sitting and conferencing with them, by introducing them to resources to address these issues. The fact that you identified instructional leader and attending to administrative duties is, frankly, that's the work of my doctoral work. As a building principal, it used to be a number of years ago that the building principal was the building manager, was the supervisor of the facility, hired staff, brought them in, supervised them, not so much evaluated or coached them. A lot of times made sure that the boilers worked, made sure that the buses ran on time, made sure that none of the kids went home hungry and that there was no fighting. And as long as that was in place and teachers did their job, we were pretty much good to go. Since the late 80s, increasingly, in principals, assistant principals, department chairs, superintendents, the expectation is that we become instructional leaders now, that we understand how to take what it is all kids need to know and be able to do, the standards that are spelled out there, develop systems for data collection, for ensuring that we have consistency of instructional practice, for growing people's potential to use those tools of instructional leadership. And yet all those other things, the boiler, the buses, and those things never came off the plate. So the job has just grown exponentially in terms of what's required of principals and what's expected of principals. They need to be, again, those building managers and those managers of facilities and those managers of people, but they need to be instructional leaders who also get instruction and know how to build capacity in their teachers to be more effective, how to keep an eye on the latest research, how to build those systems that support continuous improvement. And that's the work that I do by continually coaching my principals how to leverage the tools of instructional leadership. For example, one of the issues that's very germane across the state, very controversial in some instances, is educator evaluation. To me, the educator eval tool, and I worked on the one in Rhode Island when I was with the Department of Ed, and I've worked on the one in Massachusetts providing trainings, has great potential as, in a positive sense, because I absolutely believe that all of our teachers, these highly trained folks that, attend schools and want to do the best work they can and come to our schools prepared to grow kids, can benefit from a system that comes from a positive base, that comes from a strength-based approach that says, there are a number of things you do really well. Here's what the rubric language, though, in the eval system says about what it means to foster student engagement. Here's what it says about family engagement. Here's what it says about careful curriculum planning and adjusting to practice. Here's what it says about all these things, so that we build common understanding and common vocabulary around best instructional practices, best practices for reaching out to families, best practices for engaging collaboratively in the work of planning, of identifying student needs, of working towards those. And with those clear definitions, if we can coach folks to be honest with themselves through self-assessment, and I do this with principals, and I do it to myself, to identify those areas that are strengths, because we all have them. We have some parts of this complex work that we do, whether it's leading buildings or leading districts or leading classrooms. Some parts of that work we do really well. Other parts we do pretty good. Some parts we recognize are just not particular strengths for us. And if we can figure out how to take those things that we do really well, those things that we just absolutely kill every day, and leverage those to improve upon those things that are not necessarily our strengths. And I don't like the idea of, I don't like the term needs improvement, I don't like the terms deficiencies or any of those things. I'm just talking about areas for growth and continually improve our craft, whether it's about how we lead our buildings and ensure safe and supportive learning environments. So we're administering in the building and we're creating those structures. How we improve upon instructional practices for kids through close supervision, coaching, providing professional development that really helps move the needle. How we ensure that we continue to recruit, hire, and retain the best folks that we can through the hiring process. The only way we improve our schools, folks, is we do it by two methods. We hire better teachers, or we improve the ones we have. So if we have systems in place where we're continually looking to attract and hire and then continue to train so that these folks just continue to get better and better and better, and we're able to keep them, retaining those high-quality people, it's going to pay dividends in our classrooms. The most important thing we can do for our kids is ensure that we have an excellent teacher at the front of every classroom, an excellent principal leading every building. If we can leverage things like cohesive hiring practices and policies around that, recruitment strategies, working with the schools of higher ed, making Oxford the place that people want to come and work and stay and settle and raise their families. We're going to continually improve the quality of the teachers in our classrooms, not that they're not excellent already. Those teachers that we already have here, through targeted professional development, through coaching from, a strength-based approach, we're going to up the quality of the instructors at the front of the classrooms, working with principals to continually support them in building the skills to do that, to grow their staffs, to align their school improvement plans with the district plans, with district priorities, to use data, like we talked about before, in ways that drives instructional decision-making, strategic planning, all of those things that it means now to be a principal or a leader. We're going to be in a better position to do that. Families, parents, community, if well-educated and prepared for college and career kids are our product, this is our clientele, is the taxpayers, their parents, the families, the community members. We need to have open and honest dialogues about them, with them about what Oxford's strengths and areas for growth are. We need to be really transparent about how we're going to address those areas for strength so that eventually we're firing on all 8 cylinders to maximum effect. And we need to engage parents as partners in their children's learning and the community, because these youngsters, when they leave us, first of all, we want them to stay. We want to be able to create jobs for them and a sustainable tax base. And we want them to also agree that this is a great place to stay and raise your family. So I think all of those can be done through supporting principals, through supporting teachers, using data to inform our decisions around that. Continuing to hold high expectations for our staffs, and I hold them for myself above anybody else, and continue just to do the work of improving outcomes for our kids. And I have a circuitous answer, I apologize, but that's where I am.
Thank you very much. Mr. Spitz?
Thank you very much. This kind of ties back to data collection a little bit.
Sure.
What do you feel the role and value of assessment instruments in a school system today are?
They can be an absolute nightmare if we just test and test and test. And but the assessment tools are very, very powerful if we use them for the right reasons. So if we're collecting the right data about the right things and making decisions, the right decisions based on that, I think it plays a very important role. If in a standards-based environment, which we certainly live in, and an accountability-based environment that we live in, we are able to, and the standards do this now, identify by the end of each grade what all kids need to know and be able to do. We can do that by looking at the grade 1 standards and know what all those kids in grade 1 need to have in place in terms of knowledge, skills, habits of mind, dispositions to be successful in grade 2. The standards tell us that. And if I was to back up and say, let's even think further. If we started with the student we want to graduate, if we started with a clear vision, which is something that I think the district would also benefit from, is just really nailing down what we're about and who is the student we want to graduate, who is the kid we hope is going to cross the stage in June of their 12th year of schooling here in Oxford, and what have we prepared them for? My answer is whatever they want to do next. Brown University, a 2-year school, open their own landscaping business, whatever. But the choice is theirs, because we've prepared them for everything, the military, whatever. But if we start with that vision in mind, the assessments can tell us how well we're on track to achieving that goal for that youngster. So whether it's K to 12 or it's just in 3rd grade, if in 3rd grade there are particular standards that have to be mastered in mathematics, in literacy, in science, and we have authentic assessments that truly measure where kids are on their continuum towards achieving that standard by June 25th of the school year or whatever it is, and we can know that our instruction is supporting the kids' growth towards that, that's a powerful, powerful tool. If we started in the most simplistic sense where we had say a final at the end of grade 3, and we would get a binary answer. We'd get a yes or a no. This child, in fact, did learn all the math standards that we needed him to learn. He did, in fact, learn all the ELA stuff. Did, in fact, learn all his science and social studies. And we backed it up. We might say, well, let's have another assessment at the midterm that lets us know for sure that we're on track. Because any kid that's coming off the rails, we need to address that. And that's what our response to intervention, RTI, the tiered support systems is all about identifying when kids are kind of coming off the rails so that we can put interventions into place to ensure that they do achieve that standard by the end of the year. So assessment is really powerful there. If we said, well, this kid is coming off the rails, it's Christmas time, and he's not on track to meet his reading goals for the end of the year, and we put interventions into place, whether it's additional dosages of literacy, whether it's working with a literacy specialist, we may need assessments that we're delivering every Tuesday, every 2 Fridays, every other Friday, just a quick check to see if, in fact, the intervention that we put in place is having the desired effect. Much like if we had a medical condition and we went to the doctor and they put us on something, they're going to have us back in and check. We can't take an assessment at the end of the year, hope for the best, and just do it at the end of the year. That's much more like an autopsy than is a physical exam, right? Well, if we go for the physical and we can identify those steps that have to be taken to ensure a healthy lifestyle, that's what the assessments are for. Assessment also, though, I think one of the things that teachers that I work with in Fall River often get hung up on, and some principals, until we talk through it, is an ongoing process. It happens all the time. I'm involved in an assessment right here, right? I'm here for the evening, we're going to have this conversation, at the end of it, you're going to decide he seems like a strong candidate or he doesn't. But you're assessing how I answer each and every individual question. And my point there is that even when we're in the classrooms, when we're classroom teachers and we ask questions and the hands are shooting up, we're assessing. We're checking for understanding. We're doing frequent checks for understanding. If we're in a classroom where we are delivering a workshop model, and at the end of every classroom, the kids know they're going to get an exit ticket. They're going to get a quick little assignment that they have to fill out and give me as they walk out the door. I'm assessing. So I'm doing it on the fly all the time. And teachers' ability to continually assess what's going on in the room, I liken it kind of like to basketball, somebody that can read the floor and see everything that's happening there. That also is very, very powerful assessment. So there's assessment in terms of standardized tests. There's assessment in terms of district-developed measures. There's assessment in terms of just constantly checking for understanding and ensuring that your kids are in fact getting what you're talking about. There's assessment through developing quality questions that ask kids to really think and exert some mental, some exertion, some cognitive sweat is what I call it. And there's ways to do that too. I mean, there are ways that we can assess in the classroom where we ask questions and we quick fire around the room and the same hands go up and we call on the same kids. Or you can ask really rich questions and then stand back and let the kids facilitate amongst themselves and debate and build their own understanding. And you're still assessing. You're watching and you're listening and you're making note of how kids make connections and how they communicate. So if the question is, what do I think the role of assessment is, I think it is what gives us the data, and it's the data that drives instruction. I think it's critical.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Prescott.
Thank you. Sir, could you describe to us your leadership style and what particular strengths that you feel you could bring to the district?
My leadership style is, I think, fueled by a relentless optimism. I really do believe in the ability of teachers to do amazing things, amazing work, and principals to lead those buildings. I think I absolutely immediately give everybody the benefit of the doubt for believing that they want to come and do the best that they can, that their hearts are in the right place, and that they're committed to doing right by their kids and all kids of the district. So with that presupposition, where I start there, I also tend to think that folks continually want to improve and be successful and have an impact. And that's why I mentioned before, things like the Ed-Eval system or coaching principals or coaching teachers, I think is really important work. So my leadership style comes from one where, again, I'm optimistic that regardless of the challenges, we can continually grow and improve. I never, ever have been accused of being a micromanager, but I'm also known to be very strong in my convictions and my beliefs, and I think they're the right ones. I don't beat anybody over the head with them, but I'm a cheerleader, and I think it's really critical to also recognize that when we expect people to improve their game or step up their performance, we have a reciprocal responsibility to provide them with the capacity to do so. So if we're expecting people to really, be outstanding, take good teachers and grow them to be outstanding, amazing educators, we have a responsibility to provide them with whatever it takes for them to realize that aspiration. And so I'm very much about capacity building. I'm very much about encouraging folks. I'm very much about engaging people in conversations that help us figure out problems. I don't ever like to be the guy. I mean, it happens sometimes where I have to walk into the room and be the guy who comes up with the solution and tells people the way it's going to be. But I much prefer to be at a round table and say, guys, let's really name what it is we're trying to do here. Let's be crystal clear about what our issue is and throw it up on the whiteboard. And, well, what are those things that are standing in our way, and what are the possibilities? And let's think through this, and let's talk through this. And very quickly, you start to hear people's ideas, and a strength it would be that I have a knack for kind of bringing those ideas together and getting people to come up with plans that work, and that are actionable. And by the end of the session, by the end of the meeting, or the end of the conversation, everybody's clear about what their next steps are, and we're gonna go and we're gonna get this done, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks, and it's done. And it's just, it's a very collaborative, positive working style. I like to give people autonomy, but I hold them accountable, and I would expect, I always hope for the same for myself in my positions, and for the most part, I've had that. So I like to think that I'm very supportive. I'm always recognized for being somebody who really listens, and sincerely, because I want to learn from folks, and I engage them in the work, and that's how I do things.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Grass. So I have the last question, and this is going to discuss a little bit about your relationship with the school committee as a new superintendent.
Sure.
You come into the district, and we're getting to know one another, but you find that a few members are opposed to Park and the Common Core.
Mm-hmm.
How would you begin the conversation with the school committee at a meeting of how we either go forward with it, or what kind of actions do we take to follow the mandate, but we have to all understand it?
Well, the first thing that I would probably do is try, as best I could, to flesh out what those concerns are. There is a lot of angst, not just among community members, stake members, stakeholders, I should say, classroom teachers, parents, and others about the core, about Park, about Ed Val, about a number of issues that come down. And we will often have love-hate relationships with DESE, sometimes more hate than love. But these mandates come our way, and in a lot of instances, we have to do our best to implement. So if we took, for example, the concerns about the Common Core, again, like I was just describing, I would try and facilitate a real open conversation where we talk about, well, here's what I know, and here's been my experience thus far. Please share with me what your concerns are, and let's talk about them. Let's flesh them out. Some of them, on my part, and frankly on members of the committee's part, if we hash it all out, we may find are frankly unfounded. We may find that they're absolutely legitimate, based on regulations that have changed in the last couple of years. So they might not be as current as they could be. I see my role in an issue like that, whether it's about the core or the introduction of the co-teaching models or those kinds of things, anything that the district and the community is going to struggle with a little bit, is to be the guy who ensures that you have the best and most reliable and most recent information, supported by data, supported by research, and at the end of the day, when I feel that everybody knows and understands as much as I possibly do, then we have that conversation about what it means for the district, what it could mean for the district if we don't follow this particular mandate. If we were going to take a stand on something, what that might mean, when it's time to involve legal counsel, all of those things, so that we make together really informed decisions. Ultimately, all decisions of the school committees. I have no confusion whatsoever about who the superintendent answers to. But I would want to be in the position where I could say, Madam Chair, I've provided you with all the information that I possibly can. My recommendation is as follows. I now put it in the hands of the committee, and whatever the committee decides, that's the way I go, and I go 110%. But I think, you folks are professional people. What our educational backgrounds are, I don't know. But you cannot be expert in all things. And I think part of the role of the superintendent is to the extent that I possibly can, make you expert in those things that you've got to make some tough calls on, some tough decisions, so that when you answer questions in the paper, or when you're on television, or when you're meeting with your constituency, you're never caught off guard, you're never surprised, you never hear something that's counter to what I've told you, because I would be just dead honest with you. But make sure you have the information you need to make those difficult decisions.
Thank you. Mr. Coonan?
Thank you, Ms. Ennis. Doctor, 6 months from now, how would you define your success as a superintendent of Oxford Public Schools?
I think, there are a small number of really important levers that could be used to have an immediate impact on Oxford Public Schools. I think that initially, the work around vision, around defining with the school committee, and there's an opportunity, obviously, with new members of the school committee and a new superintendent coming in to really nail down our vision statement, our mission statement. What is it we're about? Who is the student we want to graduate? I think with that clarity of purpose, that's already a step in the right direction. I think that an accounting of where we are in terms of curriculum work could be accomplished rather quickly and has to be done. If there are gaps in the curriculum that are leading to disconnect vertically, meaning, K through 12, that has to be identified and addressed immediately, and can be. If we're going to see the improvement in student achievement and in growth that we're looking for on MCAS, we can't do that without a guaranteed viable curriculum in place. Guaranteed in the fact that every student has access to the same rigorous content every day. Viable in the fact that every kid has every student has every support that they need to be successful in accessing that rigorous content. So what does that mean? That means having excellent teachers at the front of every classroom, having teachers who are crystal clear about what it is they're trying to accomplish and where they fit into that. Having clear understandings amongst the teachers about the best instructional practices that are going to get us there, so we have clarity there. Those kinds of things are going to immediately push the needle and get us jump-started. I think, again, as I said, the most important thing that we can do is develop a culture around data-driven decision-making, data-driven instructional decision-making, finance decision-making, programmatic decision-making, professional development decision-making, so that we are crystal clear about what information informs our decisions. We're not throwing things at the wall. We're not making up things as we go. We have a rock-solid plan in place, and we're working to achieve that. I think in terms of human resources, I think nailing down policies around that to ensure that, again, as I said earlier, that we're attracting and hiring and retaining the very best, and then continuing to grow them through their careers, through professional development, through leadership opportunities, through leveraging the EdEval tool, and giving them opportunities for growth is hugely important. And I think some of the finance issues, I think, striking a collaborative relationship with the town administrator around how we're, being assessed for those shared services, looking at the health care, so that we're ensuring that every dollar that's allocated to Oxford School Department is being used to maximum effect in service of kids. We're not in a position right now where the district is allocating the highest amount per pupil, as compared to some of our neighbors. They're up around $14,000 per student on many of them. If we're not able to, if the community is not able to fund at that level per student, then we need to look at efficiencies within the monies that we do have. So that absolutely has to be done so that we can ensure that we're providing our kids with the very best, whether it's technology or instruction or leadership. So I think all of those things can be kickstarted relatively quickly in six months, certainly. Where those could be housed and how that would happen, I think, would be with the immediate development of a new accelerated improvement plan. In Fall River, we wrote an accelerated improvement plan for a level 4 district. We were on the verge of going to level 5. That outlined just four to five very important strategic objectives. And they could be based on the kinds of things that I was just talking about, again, around vision and curriculum and common expectations and HR and finance. and developed a very, very tight plan around where we need to go. So what happens first is we assess. We take an honest look at where we are in terms of all those indicators of successful school administration and leadership, and set rigorous targets, and identify crystal clear action steps that are going to be required to get us there. Name those folks who are going to be responsible for carrying out what parts, and set goals that are time-bound and trackable and actionable and very specific. And in 6 months, I would say in 3 months, in the fall, I would be able to present the committee with an accelerated improvement plan that could touch on those priorities and provide specific direction about how we're going to close those gaps and achieve some of those goals. I would expect the committee to hold the superintendent responsible for that, frankly, and would want to have regular dialogues about where we are in terms of achieving those goals, working towards those goals, what's needed, where do we need to tweak things. But I think a solid improvement plan, an accelerated improvement plan, is a good first step. I would want to embed those issues that I talked about within that plan.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much. Mr. Spitz?
Thank you. One of the things that's very important to me is how would you build rapport with your administrators, with the teaching staff, and with the support staff? Because people tend to work the hardest for the people that they support. So how would you build that rapport with that group of people?
I think people tend to work the hardest when they feel they're supported, too. And so I would immediately be out there. I think it's critical. I thought it was critical as a principal. I thought it was critical as a deputy superintendent. I think it's critical in my role now to be visible and to be in schools and to be supportive in the sense that, I hear it all the time. People say, Mark, I've never seen nobody ever comes to my building. You're the only one that shows up here. And I heard that in a number of assignments. I want to be out where the kids are, where the action is, where the young teachers are working as hard as they can. I love that energy and that excitement. And so my support would come a lot through personal interactions and meeting with the principals, meeting with directors, meeting with, again, town officials to build that rapport. I'm not somebody that's comfortable about like coming in and blowing my own horn, but I'm as transparent as they come when it comes to that kind of thing. I'm only interested really in what's in the best interest of kids and growing folks professionally. And I think that people recognize that pretty quickly and respond to that. And again, I'm a huge cheerleader of teachers and principals and kids especially. So I think the most important thing that I could do, and the way that I would do that most quickly, is by making myself available, by being out in the buildings, being out in the community. There's not a question I'm afraid to take. I might not always have the right answer at the time, but I don't hesitate to say, you know what, I don't want to misspeak. Let me look into that and I'll get back to you. I think communication is absolutely critical there, and again, it's kind of how I do things, so it works.
Thank you.
Sure.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Rassicot?
Thank you. Sir, so you just mentioned community, and it's going to come a time where we're going to have to develop a trust. You're going to have to develop a trust with the community. If we go forward and ask for a debt exclusion or an override someday, and the community needs to trust that we're going to be spending the money effectively. And I just need to know your past experiences with interacting with the community, parents, but also non-parents, the entire community.
Sure.
And what experiences you might have had in developing that trust for the
Sure.
community.
So it's all about return on investment, right? And I from the time I was a principal to deputy super and in my current role, again, we come back to the data part, right? I have always made it a point of doing whatever I can to make our data as transparent and as visible as possible. So if it was in Rhode Island, we don't have MCAS, we have the kneecap exam. If it was a matter of having the press in, inviting the mayor to a release, inviting parents to a release where I walked folks through all the data and talked to them about what it means and what are those short-term successes, but what are those areas that we still need to grow on, I would do that, and I did that a number of times. When I was an assistant principal on the other side of the city that I was working in, a much more affluent side of the city, same thing. We were absolutely transparent about how our school improvement efforts, our plans, our school improvement plans were being actualized and what the outcomes were. If I were in the position where I was developing an accelerated improvement plan that we were going to, as a district, be held accountable to the community for, like I was just mentioning, those regular check-ins that I would absolutely want to have, where I said to the committee, all right, so here's the plan that we agreed to in the fall, it's now Christmas, let me update you on exactly where we are very, very public forums, very public venues for letting the community know that here's our progress report, here's the state of the district. And when it comes time that they see that the school committee and its superintendent are people who do what they say they're going to do and achieve the outcomes that they say they're going to. And things happen, the state comes with a new mandate and we get off course and we don't always achieve our goals the way we would hope. But when those issues come up, if we are again honest with people and transparent with people about here's what's happening, those are the kinds of things that I think build trust and a track record. Initially, sometimes we have to say you need to take my word for it. I've got a track record. And I know that we can get there if we do these things. Here's my theory of action. My theory of action will make sense to you. And people say, okay. But then immediately when we start to have some short-term outcomes, some short-term gains, and people start to say, well, I think they are onto something, when you then say, all right, so now we need to add some ESL staff, or now because our special ed programs have been redesigned and we're doing the absolute best with what we can, but we need to add some additional staff in this position or in this place, people say, well, that makes sense. Based on what you've told us all along, that makes sense. If our facilities are in need of repair, and we've been, again, transparent about that, and we've been good stewards of the community's finances, they're going to say, well, nobody likes buying a new roof, but that's where we are, and it makes sense, and I trust these people. And that's the kind of relationship that you want to build.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Garceau. If you would like to make a closing comment for us, we would appreciate it.
My only closing comment would be, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to come and meet with the community, with the committee, I mean. The community is not one, frankly, that I was familiar with more than a month or so ago, but it's absolutely beautiful. I think there's tremendous potential in the district, and I think that with close attention to those key areas that I outlined, I think that we could absolutely have a pretty quick, immediate, and important impact on both student achievement and growth for the district. The Department of Ed does, from time to time, they change the rules, and they change how the accountability systems are reported. And comfortable communities and good kids and excellent teachers suddenly end up, because of changes in rules, labeled a level 3 district. And nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to be at a level 3. The folks that you currently have in place, I have absolutely no doubt are excellent professionals who have tried to address those issues and have done very well by the community. With the opportunity for a change again in the school committee, in district leadership, some clarity around what it is that the state is expecting from the district, some work around those issues that I talked around about, vision setting and that curriculum work, taking the good work that's already been done here and just bringing it to the next level, I think you would see some immediate growth. I would very much like the opportunity to be part of that, and I think if you want to see that happen, I can help you make that happen.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time in coming in, and you're welcome to stay until we've finished our interviews.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. For everybody at home, we're just going to take a few minutes until our next interview arrives. folks at home, we are back. We now have our third interview this evening. Before us is Mr. Paul Schlickman. He is here from Lowell, and he is going to now field a few of our questions. We each have 2 questions we're going to ask, and I'm going to allow you to make an opening statement if you like.
Thank you. And thank you to the school committee. Thank you for the invitation to come before you tonight. I'm honored to be here, and I hope I have the opportunity to work with you. Being a superintendent in Massachusetts is a really complicated task because you're at the intersection between the schools and the community and the school committee, which is the organization that represents the community and is accountable for K-12 education in the community. The reason why Massachusetts schools are so good is that we have small accountable districts that people can access the superintendent, can access the school committee. There's a lot of accountability built into Massachusetts. The eyes of the public are before us. We go to town meeting. And similarly, it moves into the schools in that accountability is something that I deal with on a regular basis, and it is not a dirty word. It is not a punishment tool. It is a support structure. My background is both in terms of public governance. I'm past president of MASC. I've worked a lot on advocating for issues of public governance and for how school committees can work well in terms of supporting K-12 education. I've also done a lot of work in terms of supporting the 21 schools in Lowell in terms of getting better. We've moved a level 4 school to level 1. It's not easy work, but it can be done, and we can do this kind of work together. And it's not, in school improvement and accountability is not just for level 4 schools or for urban schools. It's for the very best schools. The schools that are the very best schools are the ones who think in terms of school improvement about how do we do this better the next time? How do we get even better? And this is really a result of reflective practice in how we do business in a sustainable model. And if I become your superintendent next year, we're going to start on the process of evaluating where we're at and thinking about what we can do to be better every year. And I look forward to engaging in this conversation.
All right, thank you very much. I've been chosen to start off with the first question. Last night during our school committee meeting, we had a school improvement meeting. So we heard from our elementary principals, our special ed director, technology, and our curriculum coordinator. During that conversation, we talked a lot about data. And some of the questions that came up after all of the data, we find that we have gaps in the data to school to the relation. So what my question would be is, how do we catch up with that, and what would you do to fill in those gaps that we have?
Without knowing specifically what gaps you're looking at, the use of data is not really a thing to do, it's a process. And so you can't just take a hunk of data and look at it and figure out you've got the answer, you understand what's going on. It's really an unpeeling the onion kind of process. So that a good set of data adds to the next set of questions. And if you look in your packet, the first thing, at the back end of the right-hand side, there's a presentation triangulating student achievement data. And so everybody can take a set of MCAS scores and take a look at them. But that's not where the real story lies. So what you really want to do is start asking some questions. One of the things you do is layer them together. So sometimes if you layer your student achievement scores on report card scores, that can tell the story. Sometimes if you're looking at report card scores to growth scores, that'll tell a story. You're looking for patterns. You're looking for the next question, so that when you have a conversation with the teachers, and ultimately this goes back to the people who are the practitioners, you're able to ask the next good set of questions and get their feedback and just move the conversation to where we then get to points of practice, that what might be out of alignment or what we might be doing well. And that's basically what we're doing. There are a lot of things that I look for when I start asking questions, and when you take a look at the first packet, which talks about, starts with the tuition, the last page takes your math scores from grade 4 Clara Barton. First thing I'm looking for happens to be the third column from the right, which says OR, open response. And what we traditionally do is graph this against the state average. So the bar graphs that go up are promising signs, and your open response scores in mathematics are approaching 115% of the state average. My experience shows that when you're above 110%, you're doing pretty well, and that's probably the most important subscore within the test. If you have that going on, you've got the critical thinking and some high-quality teaching behind it. So you're looking for little components, and you're asking questions. How is this happening? In this case, it's how is this good thing happening? And what can we learn from this portion to inform practice? But it really is an iterative process. It's taking things apart, looking for the story, looking for understanding, using the data to ask questions, using the data to ask teachers to be reflective in their practice, and coming up with a reaction or response as to what they're seeing so that we can use this to think about what our next steps are going to be. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of process. If we get into a culture where we have the ability and skills to do this, we will be on a continuous improvement cycle, because it will just be in nature of the culture for us to take a look at this and peel apart the onions, ask questions, be reflective, and plot our changes for the following year.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Coonan?
Thank you. Welcome back, Mr. Schliebman.
Thank you.
My next question is going to have a series of parts to the question.
Okay.
So if you want to jot some notes, we have, starts with, give us some examples of how you have worked with principals and other district administrators to improve their performance in the following areas. Being instructional leaders, improvement of administrative performance, knowing how to interview and hire good teachers, working with parents, working with faculty and colleagues in the school district.
I work with, on a regular basis, 21 principals in Lowell. So I know who they are, and I know what their strengths are. And so it's important for me to know who they are and how they approach the business, and to impart sort of the practices that are going to be critical for them to be successful within their role. First thing I'm going to do is we'll just get the data off the table, is that a lot of the instruction we are is what seems to be happening there, what are the questions they should be thinking about asking within their buildings. Letting them be reflective about what's happening, going over their sets of data and talking to them about their teachers. Some things are really huge and apparent from central office that I might end up calling them up and say, you know, what's going on in this grade in your building. But other times it's a purposeful discussion of query about what's going on within their building, that it's a supportive conversation. I've been a principal for the past year. Our central office building is a former middle school, and we've had an enrollment surge in Lowell. So a year ago, we added 4 kindergartens. This year, I took over as a part-time position in addition to my district duties, being responsible for the 4 first grades that happened, but we also expanded out. So we expanded out into 2 more kindergartens in November, a newcomers class for children who are just entering the country. We also added 2 autism classes for early childhood in the building last August. So I went from 107 students at the start of the year to 225 by January. That necessitated a lot of hiring. And one of my colleagues is the person who does the intake and mentoring and the teacher academy. And we work together for hiring purposes for teachers regularly. And at this point, This year, I had the responsibility for making several hires. So I've got a series of questions that I was going through because I want to know who the folks are. And
Excuse me.
the one question that I really is sort of the centerpiece of what I'm asking is, in Lowell, we believe that all children can learn. Do you believe this? And the answer is inevitably yes. So then the question then becomes, if I go into your classroom, how do I see this? How do I demonstrate this? How do we make it work for all kids? And then I go through a few more hypotheticals of, okay, you've made this wonderful lesson, and it's just not working. What's your out? What do you do when you've got 38 more minutes? Now, having been an elementary teacher and a high school teacher in the past, I can look at practice, I can look at, I've been there, I've had lessons bomb, and I want to know if the candidate understands what happens in that situation. I'm also looking, because schools only work if you've got a good teamwork setup. And one of the things that I structurally did within my building was did a lot of things to make my first grade team, which was 4 teachers new to the grade level or the building, to meld them into a cohesive team unit. So if I'm hiring a teacher into a team or into the building, I'm not only looking for quality of instruction, but I'm also looking for somebody who will dovetail into that team. And if I have a need within the building or the school for a particular skill set or somehow to go and enhance one of the grade level teams, that's also going to be in the back of my mind in terms of hiring. Let me, because I didn't take notes, I'm trying to be present in the moment. Let me go through the rest of your categories within your question.
I can reread them if you
All
want.
right, yeah, reread the ones I haven't hit yet.
I'll reread all of them
Okay.
for you, okay? Being instructional leaders, improvement of administrative performance, knowing how to interview and hire good teachers, working with parents, working with faculty and colleagues in the school district.
Okay, we'll get into the teachers in that. The essential part is that a top-down approach never works. Certainly not from a superintendent's office or central office, and it really doesn't work from a principal's chair anyway, because unless you're willing to spend all day in a teacher's classroom, eventually what's going to happen is the teacher's going to close the door and do what the teacher's going to do, which is the culture of education. This is the way the system was set up. And in order to break that culture, which is kind of important, it can't be an external force. It's got to be something that teachers are perceiving value from establishing a collaborative relationship with colleagues. So when my advice to principals, and what I've done myself, is when teachers are coming and asking questions, is to try to push the decision back into the team whenever possible. So if one teacher from my first grade team comes and asks me something, I'm going to come back and say, well, what did the rest of the team say? And if they go back to the team and it seems like a reasonable thing to do and conforms to policy and it's within the mission of what we're trying to do, yeah, okay, we're going forward with that. That's fine. So you really want to set up a structure so that the teacher teams are important. In terms of dealing with parents, it really is as much a connection with teachers to parents as possible. So what you really want to do is set up a structure and an expectation that teachers are going to be regular contact with the parents, because the teacher's going to be the one in regular contact with their child, and the child is what brings their heart into the building, so that maintaining that classroom relationship is my recommendation. For overall principal performance, we do look at the accountability data on a school level, and we ask the principal to be a vital part in making a school improvement plan. And this is one of the important discussions we have. What are your goals? What's your need statement? I expect a principal to understand a need statement for his school, to understand what's going on within his building instructionally, to have sort of a plan in his head, what is the next step to move the school forward, and to have a school improvement plan that is vetted by the faculty and the staff and the community that reflects that understanding. So I'm looking for connection from data to action steps to desired outcomes. And so within the structure of the school improvement process is where I get my input into improving practice within the school. And every school's different. If you have a bunch of new teachers who are looking for a certain level of professional development, that goes in the school improvement plan if that's something that's going to be handled within the building. If you've got a high school where you're looking to expand out some of the courses, that's going to end up in the school improvement plan. And the proposal to do that is going to be based on a perceived need that you're getting from the students as to what they need in order to be successful. I think I've covered everything. Is there anything I've missed?
You said a lot, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Spitz?
Thank you, Mrs. Ennis.
Welcome.
What is the role and value of assessment instruments in the school system today?
Assessment instruments are indicators. I mean, it's not the desired outcome. And let's be real here. When a parent drops their kid off in front of kindergarten for the first day and comes into the classroom and takes a look around, they're not hoping that their child gets a advanced score on the 4th grade MCAS or the PARCC test. What they're looking for is the outcome of 12 years of education, 13 actually, as we're walking across the stage. So assessments really need to be monitoring progress along the way as we lead towards the diploma. And the way to do that, by the way, you're going to have your graduation, this Friday?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's your diploma. You own that diploma. You set the standards for the diploma. It's yours. You represent the community in that. So your role in terms of setting the requirements for what you want a child to look like when they're walking across that stage, that's one of your big responsibilities as a school committee. And one of the things that we need to do with assessments is to monitor that path to progress towards that diploma and the goals that we have for a student walking across the stage. Even at kindergarten, we're thinking about what do we need to do with that child in kindergarten to be on the path, to be literate in 3rd grade, to be proficient there, and to make the continued path to the high school diploma. So that's what we're looking to do. We're looking at assessments as a diagnostic, as a benchmark, as a signpost, as information, but remembering that it is not what we send kids to school for. We send kids to school for the intangibles that are not on the assessment instrument, but these are just markers we're using on the way. And we have to bring others in. I mean, a performing arts program is very critical to the success of a good school district. That's not going to be on any MCAS measure or standardized test, but it's certainly something you can see and look at and monitor and assess on other levels. So whatever we're doing, we need to be able to use measures to understand if we're making the progress that we really desire based on the path that we have for kids to get that diploma.
Thank you.
Mr. Escott?
Thank you. Sir, how would you describe your leadership style, and what particular strength could you bring to the district?
I think in terms of my leadership style, I'm a flat-out collaborator. Top-down doesn't work, especially for a superintendent, because superintendents really don't make a lot of decisions. The school committee, in many cases, makes a lot of decisions. The teacher in the classroom makes a lot of decisions. You're doing a lot of recommending and framing. You're asking the good questions. So that if the teacher is making a decision about how to teach something, you're placing in front of a teacher the desired outcome, the end-of-year standards or the goals along the way. But what you're really doing is you're asking the teacher to make all those little iterative decisions day by day, minute by minute, of how they're going to get the child to the desired outcome. I really rely on people to come and do team, to get together and make things happen and make decisions. Because one of the things that I was responsible for in Lowell was the elementary report card. And we took a first stab at it, and we went to a standards-based report card. We got as far as we could with the teacher committee that we had and put it out there, and we let people work with it for a few years. And then we figured out where we had some of our problems, and when there was momentum among the teachers and the parents to make the next set of adjustments, we got everybody in the room and said, okay, we found out that people aren't looking at the proficiency standards on the report card the same way. How do we fix that? I had an idea in my mind that was a really great idea. I thought it was pretty cool. They came in with another idea, and the consensus of the group was to do something else. And it was a very workable solution, and the teachers understood it, and the parents understood it, and it was actually a better solution that I would have put on the table and implemented if I had to do it by myself. So you really need to invite stakeholders in, especially when the decision-making process is so public. The major decisions that I'm making or asking you to make are in very public settings. They're with the camera, they're in front of the community. It's something that's going to be talked about. So in order for that to be successful, you really need to lay the groundwork by asking for enough opinions from the folks who are going to be impacted by it, and asking for enough opinions from the folks outside who are going to be impacted by it in order to bring it together and to be successful. Because ultimately, that's the only way you're going to get to a really good decision that's going to stick and that's going to be implemented, and it's going to be the hearts and minds of the folks who are doing the work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schlickman. I have the last question for me. Let's talk about your relationship as a new superintendent with the school committee. We have a few members, this is just a hypothetical, that are opposed to Park and Common Core. How would you begin the conversation with the school committee to make us understand, and especially those that may be opposed to it, that this is something we need to really take a good look at? And how would you, also, I'm going to just go a little step further, make sure that the public understands, the parents, the stakeholders, the residents understand what Park and Common Core means to this school district and to the community?
Well, we have to separate the two out because Park and Common Core are two different things. Common Core is the set of standards, Park is the assessment. In this particular instance with Park and Common Core, we have to go from the basis of this is a state mandate and we are going to need to be there at some point. So it doesn't really become a question of if we should go to Common Core or if we should do Park. It's really when and how. For Park, it's really a question of do we do it next year, do we postpone it out? For Park, for Common Core, it is something that this is the state standard that the state is expecting us to meet, and if we want to meet our accountability targets, we need to align to Common Core. So that's basically the discussion. You really need to bring the context in. And then what you really need to do is also talk about what decisions we are able to make at the local level. And that's really a critical part of it. What are our options? And what happens if we choose a particular set of options? Because we can have a very nice discussion of whether we like Park or whether we like Common Core. And maybe what we do is on the outside, we do a presentation, we bring in some folks to talk about it so that the theoretical discussion can be had. But then when we get into this room with the school committee, the community having had this conversation, we really need to frame things within the context of the decisions that the committee are being required to make. So that's the way I'd approach that. I am not religiously for or against Common Core. I think that it is an improvement, but it's not a religious thing with me. It is a progressive step. I see the benefits, I see some of the drawbacks, but we are going there, and it's in the best interest of the students to, and the teachers to lay out a path for them to be in a position to be teaching within the Common Core frameworks as it becomes required and as it's going to be assessed by the state.
Thank you. Mr. Coonan?
Thank you, Ms. Zanis.
You're welcome.
In 6 months, how would you define your success as a superintendent of Oxford Public Schools?
That's a big question. I would say that if, there are a lot of benchmarks along the way for a superintendent within the first year. The Super Bowl for superintendents is the presentation of the budget at town meeting. And it really is a benchmark. And for one of the benchmarks of success that I would have, and this is sort of divorced from everything else that is really kid-centric, but it's really a foundation of something we need to do. The Finance Committee, town meeting, the key political players in town need to look at our budget with understanding, and that we have a sustainable budget that we're going forward, with folks who understand what we're doing and why. So your budget, the development and presentation of your budget in a manner that is well received by town meeting is one element of success. I think that I want to see as a measure of success for myself is to see visible and tangible progress within the schools. And I'm not sure how to define that right now, because it's really, I'm a newcomer to the table. I can look at your data, I can come up with some hypotheses, but I don't know what the answers are going to be. I have the questions that I can start asking, but it's important for me to listen to the answers in order to start crafting the next question and then coming up with a plan. So another element of success for me would be to have a strategic, thoughtful plan that is appreciated and owned by the faculty and staff of the district as we're moving forward, that is part of the budget. So when we're making our budget, it's also coming from the foundation of a plan that is meaningful and supported within the schools, that are going to lead to improvement in the schools. In many ways, the success of a superintendent is also going to be based on your expectations of me, so that if we come to a partnership and start working together, it will be a question of how do you see success being measured, because we need to develop a plan and a set of expectations together. I want to see progress on some other fronts. I mean, you know that you're losing about $600,000 a year to out-of-district placements, be it charter schools or school choice. I think for me, and I don't know that I can get movement in year one, but one of the things that I'm going to be really working hard at is to move those numbers, because if I want more money within my budget to improve programs or to add programs, it's very difficult to go to a town meeting and ask for that. It's a lot easier to go and capture money from another source, and I'm looking at that $600,000 as a source, as my first source to go after for improvements within the district. I will certainly ask the community to maintain what we have, but in terms of improvements, I want to go to the community and say, if we can reduce these out-of-district costs, can we keep this money within district for improving and adding to programs? And so the other intangible that I have is that the perception of the district, because it's not about the superintendent, it's about the children of the district and the perception of the district. And we need to improve the perception of the district, because there are people with a perception of the district who saying that they'd rather put their kid on a bus to go the other side of Worcester or to drive to another community to use school choice. And I want to reverse that image. I want people to know that the best education for their child is going to be in the town of Oxford and in the public schools. And if that message is out there, and if people start talking about it and that message resonates, I'll know I'm successful.
Thank you. Mr. Spitz?
How would you build rapport with your administrators, with the teaching staff, and with the support staff?
Frequent conversations. And I think informal conversations are important. I try to hang out in places where I can have informal conversations with teachers. But the other thing is that there's a cultural thing. It's often tough to talk to people in authority. Even as a principal, it's difficult for some of the teachers to come and complain to me rather than complain amongst themselves unless you set up the expectation and the environment. Now, if you look at my resume, you know I grew up in New York and I went to the City University of New York for my undergraduate degree. So as a New Yorker, you know, there's sort of this invitation to discourse. And so you can come to me and complain. You can come to me and argue. I like a good argument, and I need you to argue with me, not adversarially, but intellectually in terms of the process of making things work. So I really have to go and, first of all, set the expectation and the culture that it's okay to argue and it's okay to push back, especially if it's behind closed doors. I don't want to see a big argument in the newspaper of discontent within the district, because that's not what I'm looking to breed. What I'm looking to breed is a frank and honest and open conversation, two-way, between principal and teacher, principal and superintendent, teacher and superintendent, and members of the community. That's really the vital part of making this whole thing work. And setting forth a structure where we're making major decisions so that people know a decision is going to be made and they have an avenue of input, so that it's not a couple of people in central office closing the door making a decision. If we know that we're going to make a curriculum decision, say new math curriculum or an adjustment in terms of the course of study at the high school, that people who are going to be impacted by that know that that decision is on the table and know they have an avenue to get in and have a conversation about it.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Razaka?
Thank you, Mrs. Ennis. Sir, you kind of answered part of my question. It had to do with developing a sort of trust in your interaction with the community as a whole. If we were to go forward with a debt exclusion or an override someday, and you know, to have the community trust that we are spending our money effectively and efficiently. And you kind of touched on a real sore spot of mine, and that's the out-of-district costs that we already have, which is telling us that, like you said, people are choosing to go other places. So I guess, and this is maybe going to be a difficult question to answer, but what experience have you had in the past for developing trust in the community, and how could you bring that to Oxford?
I am an elected official and won election in a contested election by spending $0. So I've built a level of trust and understanding in my community. It took a while to do that, but it really involves getting to know the folks who you're working with. You really need to go and it starts by identifying the key players that you need to have on board. You know, the guy who sits in the front of town meeting slightly off to the right, who's sort of the person who's questioning everything and loves to go and ask tough questions about the school budget. He's my new best friend. I'm going to find him, and he's going to be on my list of people to have lunch with once a month,
diner.
or have breakfast. Oh yeah, the diner with the pig bus. Love it. Yeah, but I'm looking for the curmudgeons. I'm looking for the plausible opponents. The way you pass overrides is not to get the people who always vote for overrides on your side. That's not your target audience in terms of making the case. What you have to get is the educated skeptics, the people who were really, maybe they'll be with you on some occasions, but really will push back. In most towns, these are the folks who will be with you for a debt exclusion, for a building, but will never be with you for an operating. Because you really haven't done the homework and set the groundwork for the operating budget. You haven't told your story. Now, in Arlington, we have a decrepit high school. I mean, the building dates back 100 years, has been added on to, subdivided. It is a mess. It's going to cost us $120, $130 million to do a full renovation of this. It's a big building. We're a big town. You better believe that everything we say in terms is and the high school needs to be fixed, and the high school needs to be fixed. It is part of the local culture and lore right now. In Arlington, the high school needs to be fixed, so that there's an understanding. The understanding of the budget statement. One of the reasons why I said that the budget presentation at town meeting is the Super Bowl for a superintendent is because no matter what you're asking for, it's the thoughtful, open presentation that builds you credibility this year that you use the next year. So your budget presentation needs to be open, transparent, thoughtful, and people really need to understand your goals and the reason behind the budget changes, the reason behind the additions here and maybe the deletions there. That's part of the story in the budget. And if you're communicating that to the community, if the selectmen understand what your struggles are, if the finance committee knows, and you go into town meeting with a well-done document and a brief presentation that is on point, and you do that every year, when you need help, you have the credibility to ask it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for answering all of our questions. Now I would like to give you a few minutes if you'd like to make a closing statement for us.
Well, it's an honor to be here, and I know the challenges you're facing. I've done a lot of research. I've done my homework. I've probably done about 50 graphs and tables based on what I've been playing with. More as an exercise for me to learn where you're at, as opposed to trying to present to you and tell you a story about where you're at, because you know where you're at. You know where you need to go. I know that as somebody who's worked with a level 4 school and brought it up to level 1, we know what it takes to bring it forward. We need the trust of the teachers. We need the teachers to be on board. We need the community to be on board. We need folks to understand what the mission is and what our challenges are. We have to be open and honest. If we're doing well, we need to say it. If we've got challenges, we need to say it, because those are the challenges we're going to use to make our case for help and support from the community. This district has tremendous potential. This district could be the outstanding district in Worcester County. It really can. This district can do such great things. This district shouldn't be losing $600,000 a year in choice and charter. And I'd like to help you get there. I see the vision of how to do it. I know we can set the stage. I know we can move forward. I know we can sell the teachers and the community and the benefits of having a child in this system. It's a community development. It's a community support. This is part of community development and building a better town. It's just as important as the Parks Department having a good police department. It's important for the people who don't have children in the school to have a strong, well-regarded school system. And a lot of it, in most cases, is not because things are not going well. Things are going well. I trust you have good teachers. That's what I've heard. It's a matter of aligning things, of making things work well, and then telling the story, making sure people understand that this is where they want their child to go to school. That's our mission. That's what we're going to do if we get a chance to work together. And I look forward to the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are going to take a 5-minute or so break, so if we could go off camera for a bit. Thank you very much. We'd like to, the committee would like to thank Mr. Yvonne, Dr. Garceau, and Mr. Schlickman for coming here this evening. This process, especially in a public forum like this, is a very difficult one. We would, I can't talk anymore. We would like to all say, make a statement and give a feel for what each one of us witnessed tonight. So I'm going to start off with Mr. Coonan, and then we'll just go right down the line, so we can have some deliberation.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. First of all, I do want to thank all the candidates. You were all very, very well-versed. You definitely did your homework when you came through here, and I think any one of the three would make a great superintendent for Oxford Public Schools. Remember, this is an interim position, and it's a way of feeling out process. And could it lead to a long-term? It could. Maybe we'll see how the district works, and then we do have a search to go through after this. So stage one of the process is going towards a permanent superintendent. I know that the hour's getting late, and some of these gentlemen have lengthy drives home. Instead of going through each candidate, the strengths and weaknesses and all that, I just want to speak of the candidate of my choice.
Sure.
The candidate of my choice this evening is Dr. Mark Garceau. Dr. Garceau, I think your work in Fall River is absolutely outstanding. You have an excellent resume. And as you and all the other candidates showed, you're an educator first. You went from the classroom to administrative role, as the other candidates as well too. Some of the points from our just brief discussion here is the strength that you said in the retaining and teaching our teachers, of our own teachers, that we want to recruit, but what we have here, we're keeping here, and that we've got to retain them. We've got to make them better people. And that's one of the challenges, is that they are good. We have great teachers. Now, how can we take them to the next level and move us? One of the words that you described yourself as relentlessly optimistic. And, and when it really goes through, is I believe that you understand the challenges, and you're the type of individual that's not going to take no for an answer. That you're going to get us to the next level, and as part of that, the kicker on it for me was when you talked about your accelerated improvement plan. And that's what I know as a committee man that I'm looking for when I was interviewing. I was saying, here's a piece of paper that says, right away, this is what I want to do to get you from here to here. And I think that you set some high goals for yourself tonight in this interview. And if you are a successful candidate, I don't know where my candidate's going to go, but that's what I'm going to hold you very accountable to those. So, Madam Chair, that's my choice this evening.
Very good, thank you, sir. Mr. Rascott.
I thought we were going to you next, sorry. You could,
I'm last.
of course.
Tiebreaker.
Before we even started this process, I was under the feeling that for an interim position, and this, remind everybody, we all know, but I'll say it anyways, this is just an interim position, and I thought it would be most appropriate to have an interim position filled with someone who is already from the district and understands at least the people and the initiatives that we've started and the efforts that we've been making. And I felt that strongly until I met Dr. Garceau and Mr. Schlickman tonight and got to hear what they had to say. And I'll be honest, I've met two very qualified, excellent gentlemen, which makes this decision all that more difficult for me to choose. And I keep trying to tell myself, well, this is an interim, and no matter who we choose tonight, I would hope that the other gentleman would not give up and apply during the normal search process for the permanent position if we go forward that way.
We do that.
But I got to be honest with you, and it was Mr. Schlickman's comment about the Super Bowl for a superintendent is the presentation of the budget at the town meeting. That really hit with me. And I believe he really came across as having a very passionate concern for the extensive outer district costs that we were losing. Now, I know we all want to say, and we all do say it, that it's all about the kids and what we can do for the kids, but ultimately, all about the kids starts with getting the money that we need to do the things for the kids. And, sir, you convinced me that I believe you have the experience and the knowledge, and you understand what's important to try to improve this district. And so I have to go with Mr. Schlickman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Spitz?
Well, first, I'd like to thank everybody for going through the process. I know it's not an easy process. And, you know, as the new person on the board, I want to thank the committee for giving us 3 great options, because I think you guys really did a great job with the selection process. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I wanted to say a few things. First of all, about Mr. Yvonne. I've always been a fan. I became a fan of yours when I spent the day at Clara Barton one time, and I saw how you interacted with the teachers, the students. Always will be a fan, probably. And that being said, you know, one of the things that really impressed me with Dr. Garceau, you said one thing as I make my notes. You said the key to everything is to hire better teachers, improve the ones we have. And that's exactly how I feel. I think that no matter what we do or who we have as a superintendent, no matter what we do as a school committee, that is it all in a nutshell. And as soon as you said that, you won me over. I have to be honest with you. Because I really think that is the key to everything we do. We have to have the best teachers in place to teach our children. And, you know, I think that you all did a fabulous job with the answers. I was very, very impressed with everything that everybody said. But that really rang true for me. So without a question of a doubt, I have to go with Dr. Garceau.
Okay, thank you very much. And I also am going to thank everyone again for this evening. And all 3 of you do bring something. If we could take a piece of each of you to make one, we would have an unbelievable superintendent. But of course, this is a very difficult decision. Mr. Yvonne is part of this family. He has been with us for a long time now. I've always said, anyone have ever asked about Mr. Yvonne to me, I've said he is a principal's principal. He is a stellar educator, and we all know that. Mr. Schlickman has an outstanding reputation with MASC. He is, as we've seen this evening, you could listen to Mr. Schlickman talk about education because he knows how to present it. And then we have Dr. Garceau. And Dr. Garceau, when he began speaking, I was taken with it, I have to say, right away. And it seems like we've all taken a piece of something that you have said that resonates with how we feel. And one of the things that you had said was you are ready to put in an accelerated improvement plan. This committee, even though Mr. Spitz he's not new, he's returned, but we do have a new member that unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. We are so ready to come out of level 3, and we want to be a level 1 district again. It was a level 1 district at one time. That is the line that the light went off in my head. One of the other things that you had mentioned that I thought was something else, that you have a crystal clear attack to problems. I want someone that will step in that's strong, that knows to get down on the floor with the kids and read them a book. I want somebody that is out in the district all the time. Baseball games, field hockey games, football games, visible. That's what I'm looking for. So, to you, I also, I would like to entertain a motion that we begin deliberations and contract negotiations with Dr. Mark Garceau.
I'd so move that.
I'll second.
Thank you. I'm going to call for a roll vote. If you wouldn't mind, Julianne, we're going to have a roll vote. Mr. Coonan?
Yes.
Mr. Rassicot?
What are we voting, sorry?
for Mr. Garceau to begin contract negotiations and offer him the position.
Looks like it's 3-1.
That's how it should be, if that's what you want.
No.
Okay?
Yes.
Mr. Spitz, and I also vote yes. Mr. Garceau, thank you very much. We are looking forward to working with you, and again, we thank everybody for coming tonight, Mr. Schlickman and Mr. Yvonne very much. But that's it, we've done our work. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.